We got a raid! We got a raid from Taryn. Welcome in, Taryn and Raiders. Gender's abstract, welcome in. How's it going? Have to raid and run. Taking kiddo for a picnic lunch at the park. What? That sounds so much fun. A picnic lunch. Wow, at the park. With his bestie, so he won't be back, but I love you and I hope you get lots of words. Taryn, have tons of fun at the park with little kiddo and little kiddo's bestie. Heck yeah! Oh my gosh. Sorry guys, there was a little extra something that I had to take care of while I was getting my coffee ready. But I'm here now and I'm ready to go. Let's scroll back up. Because we got lots of people to say hi to. We got Peter with first today. Peter, congrats on first. Beta Stardust is here. Taryn is here. Key is here. Pi is here. Oh my gosh, so many people. Joe, how's it going? How you feeling today? I know you weren't 100% yesterday. How's it going today? Hope you're feeling better. Sardonisms is here. I wanted to thank you for helping me with my keyboard problem. I did eventually open the laptop up to wiggle the cable, and it turned out that the cable was partially disconnected. I popped it back into the socket properly and have had no further issues. Hell yeah! Key is just amazing when it comes to the computer repairs. Mad Lad is here. Mai is here. All the peeps are here today. It's Thursday. I usually don't expect to see this many peeps on Thursday. Mai sneaking in from work. Hope you're having a good work day, Mai. If it happens again, somehow I suggest a little strip of Captain tape to hold it better in place. Nice. Much better than spending $200 on a new keyboard wrist rest and having to disassemble and reassemble the whole computer. Very true. Very, very true. Especially when it's probably just a 20 to 35 USD keyboard, if it was just the keyboard. Heck yeah. Key, always coming in clutch. Peter is on a 75 stream streak. Peter, I don't know how you've been to 75 of my streams considering how late they have to happen in your day, but I appreciate the fuck out of you being here that often. Represent. Had the separation anxiety. Hey, it's okay. We're here now. I'm here. This might squick a few people out, so a heads up that I'm about to say something that may squick you. Maybe don't listen for 30 seconds. But I have a tendency to brush my teeth a little too hard, and I think I cut open my back gum a little bit. So I'm just taking a little extra care right now after I eat to rinse that out and make sure that no grit is getting in there, and hoping that it will resolve itself without me having to go see a dentist. We'll see. It's way in the back past, like, past my back molar. I think I just got my toothbrush in there and just, you know, you can imagine. So, there you go. Squicking hopefully over. You're still earlier than yesterday. That is true. Yesterday I was very late. Today I've been a little bit more on top of things because I have a hard cutoff for dinner tonight. I'm gonna have dinner at a normal time with my husband. And it's keeping me on that track. It's keeping me on those rails. I hate it when that happens, when you cut up your gums because you brush too hard. It's funny because I've always had trouble with taking care of my teeth in various ways. And when I was younger, you know, the dentist was always like, you don't brush for long enough. You gotta brush for this much time, and you gotta do this, and you gotta do that. And now they're like, so you've worn away the gum in a few places because you're brushing too hard. And I'm like, I can't win with you people. I either brush not enough or too much. There's no middle ground here. But my dentist did also warn me, because my wisdom teeth never came in on the bottom. He did also warn me that there's kind of a gap back behind my back tooth, because theoretically there's another tooth in the gum there, but it doesn't have room to come out. So I think I've just kind of jammed inadvertently, because my gums have been bleeding for the last few days. I think I jammed my toothbrush back there. So I'll keep an eye on it and see if it heals, and if it doesn't, I guess I'll have to go to the dentist and be like, hey, I think I brushed too hard. Oops! Trying not to lose my streak. Of course, I'm actually here to hang with you, but the streak is a happy bonus. Hell yeah! Hopefully, if you ever miss a stream, you can hopefully watch a VOD to get the streak back. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Twitch is a little finicky with it. I like leaving the streaks on for you guys, because you guys seem to like them, but I don't want you to stress about them. I don't want you to stress at all about streaks. I need to take Megan to the hospital. I'll steer and choke and work the pedals. If I need to go to the hospital, it ain't you two Chaos Goblins that are taking me. Having an infection in your mouth would be not fun. Yeah. And I, lurking on mute to save my streak, actually have a meeting right now. Cater Nader, hello. I will reply in chat since, lurking on mute. They are exactly super gentle. They aren't exactly super gentle at the dentist either, so, like, what the heck. I know, like, they really get in there. But they know what they're doing, and I don't, I guess. I had to get gum grafts because I was brushing too hard with brushing too hard with too old a brush, and I guess my gums were already thin anyway. Yeah, my mother-in-law had the same thing, because she was using one of those electric toothbrushes that, like, beeps to tell you when to move on. And I guess it was a bad model of toothbrush, but she didn't know that, and the same thing happened, so she also had to do the same thing. She had to have gum grafts. They had to take the tissue from the roof of my mouth because there wasn't enough excess gum anywhere else. I think it was the same. I think for my mother-in-law, they took something from, like, the cheek or something. I don't remember where, but they had to take it from somewhere else in her mouth. So, yeah. Anyway, don't want to talk too much about dental stuff because it squicks me out. And I hate the dentist, and I don't really want to have to go for something like this. Because at the moment, it's not painful, it's not bothering me, but I'm trying to keep it that way. So yeah, I just had to, since I stream oh, no, you're good. Sardonisms, it's fine. I'm just not going to read the whole thing because, it squicks me a little. I'm not ignoring your message. I did read the whole thing. I just don't want to read it out loud. Everybody has their things that make their insides, twist a little bit. And for me, it's tooth and nail stuff. Or not tooth and nail, tooth and eye stuff. And for Ghost Pepper, it's nail stuff. Yeah. But, anyway, I'm just taking a little extra care. I'm hoping it'll heal on its own. I have had cuts on my gums back there before. Not quite like this, but I have had it happen before, so I'm hoping it'll clear up on its own. And if not, I guess I'll go get it looked at, but I'm just trying to make sure no food gets back in there. And I start stream pretty soon after breakfast, so just while I was making my coffee, I slipped back into the bathroom and did a quick little rinse out and a tiny little brush just to make sure no residue was getting back in there. Have no idea how long it may have been since I did this, but just trying to take care of it now that I'm aware. I need to have a tooth removed. Peter, you have so many tooth problems, and we're looking at over 20 weeks, which is way past my 40th, way past the Edinburgh Fringe. It's way in September. They have to wait that long because they don't have anything sooner? Is this like your wisdom teeth? Wish the news was a lot quieter across the British Empire. Zero news happening. Did something happen on your side of the pond that I don't know about, Peter? Oh, wait. I think I saw something trending. Did somebody get arrested? I don't know things. You guys need to tell me, because I don't know. I think somebody got arrested? I saw something trending. I'm getting contact lenses. I'm going to my high school reunion this year, and with my contacts and losing weight, I'm going to be hot as hell. Good luck. I used to wear contacts as well, and I liked them, but they dried out my eyes, so I eventually stopped using them. It's a wisdom tooth at the back, which has grown in sideways. Impacted, yes. Prince Andrew was... Okay, we don't usually talk politics in chat. Can you tell me in, like, one sentence what he got arrested for? We don't want to go too deeply down this rabbit hole, but to spare me having to Google it, what did he get arrested for? But yeah, good luck with the contacts. Try not to fall asleep in them because they'll dry out your eyes really badly if you fall asleep with them. But I really liked my contacts when I had them before they started drying my eyes out too much because I fell asleep with them in a few times, and you're not supposed to do that. Officially, he's been arrested for supplying classified information to that one guy with the island, whose name we won't name. Oh. I see. I see. That's okay. Listen, I didn't know who Peter meant, so... okay, well, I guess we'll see how that goes. Which one? You guys told me this already, I think. Which one is Prince Andrew? I don't keep track of the royal family. Which one is Prince Andrew? That doesn't... The weird one, they're all weird to me. I mean, like, whose kid is he? Who's his parents? How's the editing going? The editing is actually going great. We are almost at the end of the first book in this trilogy, Lizzie and Filbo's son. Which number? How many sons did they have? It's all new to me. Second in line. Interesting. Does the current king not have any kids that are, like, in line for the throne? Third born, second son. So wait. If he is the daughter in line for the throne? Oh, okay. So he was second in line before I see. I'm getting there. I'm slowly getting the picture. Edits are going great. We're almost done with the first book in this trilogy. In fact, this is probably going to be our last stream editing this particular book. Next week, we're probably going to do a stream where I outline the edits for the middle book of this trilogy, which I am expecting to be a full disaster. Just a complete and total dumpster fire, because I definitely remember when I was writing it feeling like I sort of lost my hold on the character part of the drama, which is really what space operas are all about. So I'm expecting to need to do some pretty heavy editing on that one. Maybe it'll surprise me. This book surprised me by being a lot better than I thought, but next book is the one I'm really worried about. I don't think the plot itself needs a lot of changes, but I think some of the character arcs are going to need adjustment, which means a lot of little tweaks and adding bits in here and there, and there'll be a lot to keep track of. So that's the thing that you should expect me to mutter about a lot in the next couple months. But this is going really well. I'm really pleased with this book. It's a lot better than I thought it was when I wrote it. And I'm excited to polish it off and get on to the next bit. Glad the edits are going well, and hope the book 2 edits go smoothly. It's technically book 11. But it's the second book in the trilogy. We're actually, so for those that don't know, because I think we do have some people who are new since when I actually wrote this book. So if you go into the About section of the stream chat, you'll see that there's a section about the Celestial Serenade, and you can see the 9 books that are already published in that series. I thought it was only going to be a 9-book series. I wrote, edited, and published those 9 books, and then my characters were like, hey, here's a fun idea for another trilogy that could happen in this book that makes a ton of sense and answers some questions that were kind of, you know, dangling there waiting to be answered. And I was like, how dare you? And I tried to ignore them and put them in a box and put the box in a bigger box and put the big box on a ship and send it out to sea and sink it. But that didn't work. So we wrote another trilogy for the series, but I had already started the Aravalia Chronicles by the time that I stopped being in denial and accepted that there was more story to the Celestial Serenade. So after we finished the Aravalia Chronicles, we wrote the new Celestial Serenade trilogy. So even though I keep referring to them as books 1, 2, and 3, they are books 1, 2, and 3 in this trilogy, but they are, in fact, books 10, 11, and 12. So there you go. We're about to finish book 10 and move on to book 11. Don't sass me, Peter. I get you. I haven't read chat yet, but I see you in my mind's eye typing about how the stories never end, and I just don't need that today, Peter. Okay. Essentially, Charles's children take priority over Charles's brother. The sisters have little to no chance until Charlotte was born, which is when Elizabeth changed succession to be based on what order you were born in rather than the gender. Yeah. Sons did used to take priority. That was the thing. This is why when Megan says it's really the ending, you don't believe a word of it. Peter, what did I say? What did I say? Peter, why? To be honest, I don't think anyone really understands the royal family or the line of succession. From what I understand, it's like the current king's son would be next in line, and then like any of his kids, and then if somehow all of his kids are out of the picture and they didn't have kids, then it would go to his brother. And then once his brother was king, then it would be their kids. Something like that. Stories end. Key. I'm gonna come over there. I'm gonna fucking come over there. They should end sooner or later. Sooner or later, all stories should end. Anyway, interesting that a prince was arrested. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because I assume the royal family is going to be like, this is outrageous. We can't be arrested. I assume that's going to happen. I don't actually know. There's a weird thing in Scottish formality where even though I was younger than my sister, if the school sent home letters, my name would be first, then my sister's. Weird. If all the palace drama Danmei I've read is to be believed, Imperial China couldn't give two shits about what order you were born in. If you were utterly perfect, abjectly terrible for the job. I do believe in Asian countries the succession did tend to work differently, because it was really common, from what I know, citation needed. I don't know as much about like Chinese and Japanese and Korean history as I do about European history, which is an issue with our school system. But my understanding is that it was very common for emperors in Asian countries to have multiple consorts and multiple children by multiple consorts, and the ranking of who was next in line tended to be based on a complex mathematical equation of birth order, competence, approval rating, and just whichever one they liked best. Is my understanding. So your birth order wouldn't necessarily preclude you from becoming emperor, but you probably would have to kill a couple of people to get to the top spot. Dinner will be done at 6. Don't be late. Your dinner or my dinner? The royal family are on board. Whether Andrew is imprisoned or stays in prison. Oh, so the royal family hasn't been like, you can't arrest us. They've just been like, well, he broke the law. Good luck, I guess. Charlie has been like, let the law carry on. Well, you know, that's a mature response. I got it right. I do in recent years. It's not a good sentence. Let's start that sentence over. I have in recent years been learning more about the history of Asian countries because there's a big difference in Chinese history versus European history because they invented the printing press much, much earlier in China than in Europe. So there was a lot more dissemination of certain types of information and a lot more things being, you know, actively published at a much earlier time period. And their development was quite different. So I have been studying a lot more, mostly Chinese and Japanese history. I admit that I don't know a lot about Korea and that kind of area. But I have been studying a lot more Chinese and Japanese history in more recent years to try and fill in that gap a little bit. And reading some classics from China and Japan, historical classics as well, just to sort of get an idea of like what literature they consider important and what they consider to be the classics. But I do admit that I have a much less firm grasp on the history of that region of the world versus, you know, Europe. African history I know even less about, which is a travesty. Again, we had a very Eurocentric education when I was growing up, and it's only as an adult that I've been like, wow, we just ignored, I don't know, probably, I want to say 60% of the world. So, yeah, I'm trying to fill in those gaps, but I'm old and slow now, so it's a slow process. You said you were going to come over here, so don't be late for dinner. I didn't say I was coming for dinner, Key. I'll take your food, but that's not why I'm coming. Seems like maybe the firstborn son of the Empress, since they had all the harem and concubine and consort stuff, might have priority. But it was the Emperor's call who would succeed him, and he was in no way bound. Yeah. Theoretically, being the Empress, it gave you perks, and being, you know, the children of the Empress gave you perks. But if the Emperor liked one of his other kids by one of the other consorts, you were kind of boned. I've learned whatever downmay authors include in their stories, and if enough authors write it the same way, I figure it's true. I mean, that's probably accurate. It probably comes from the culture, right? Like, they probably take liberties, but it's probably rooted in the culture. Charles has been a little avoidant due to that being his brother, the same way Elizabeth, since that was her son, but William has made it clear his viewpoint, and Charles has been going with that and essentially doing the bare minimum to let the public know he doesn't support Andrew's behavior. So this is kind of his way of being like, well, you kept sticking your hand in a fire, and now it got burned, and good for you dealing with that. To put it colloquially, William wants Andrew to rot deep down. That sounds very British. Scholarship was highly valued in ancient China, and unfortunately most people skip over a huge part of Asia, South and Southeast Asia, which are incredibly interesting area. I remember when we were in Scotland, we went to the museum. He's now laughing at the idea of me trying to smack him around because I am tiny and on the opposite side of the country. I'm assuming what that laughter is for. When we were in Scotland, we went to a very interesting exhibit that they had on. It was a special exhibit at the time, and I can never remember which dynasty it was. was either the Song Dynasty or the Tang Dynasty. It wasn't the most famous one. It was like the second or third most famous dynasty. But they had a whole bunch of artifacts on loan that were on display for a special exhibit about one of the big dynasties in China. And it was so fascinating going through and reading about it because the big thing in that time period in China was the bureaucratic exam. And so all these young noble sons wanted to get into the bureaucracy because there were a lot of bureaucrats in China. There was the emperor, and then there was like his council, which were bureaucrats. They they're the ones who are always seen depicted at tables with quills and stuff, writing everything down. I think we might have a couple of hydrates that I missed. Hang on. Oh no, that's from yesterday. These are the first hydrations to come in. Heck yeah, let's do some hydrates. 1,000? 1,000? Why did I say that? What is up with my brain today? 1,000? 1,000. Or rather, 2 hydrates. But yeah, so it was a really big deal to get into the bureaucratic, class, essentially, by passing this exam. And what was so interesting to me is a lot of the really famous artists in China were people who failed the exam. They didn't get in, and so they turned to art, and they created these really beautiful pieces, poetry and paintings that were like, people raved about them. But because they didn't pass the exam, they didn't have a way to make money, and they all died penniless and drunk in the streets. And meanwhile, the people who, passed the bureaucratic exam and thus had money would try to emulate the great artists and would rave about the great artists, but nobody paid them any money. They all died drunk and penniless in the streets at a young age. And I was like, this is fucked up. This is really 1 5,000, 2 5,000. I don't know why I started counting that way. Oh my gosh. So that was an interesting thing I learned about ancient China when we were in Scotland. We learned exactly 3 things in high school history: the slave trade, race relations in the U.S. in the 1950s and 60s, and the appeasement of Adolf in the run-up to World War II. We had a pretty robust education in history, but it was very Eurocentric. Do you know any of the dynasty names? No, but I know how they kept track of time and how fancy houses kept form. I love learning as an adult. I'm desperate to learn more history as things get older. I also have a love of learning. There's a literal actual job called Grand Tutor. Wouldn't be surprised. Poor in points, pie, but you're rich in our love. You're rich in our love, and that's what really matters. The modern college entrance exams, their version of the SATs, are actually modeled on the way those bureaucratic exams were run. Actually, modern tests in our world are based on those too. Ghost Pepper listens. Why can't I talk today? Ghost Pepper listens to a podcast called The Rest is History, and they did a podcast on tests, and they kind of brought the Asian system of testing over to Europe at a certain point in our history, which is fascinating. Also understand that getting a daughter into the harem was something some families would try to maneuver for. Yeah, because theoretically, they'd live the good life then. They'd live the good life if they didn't get murdered by the other jealous harem members. It was so ingrained in their society it even affected their religion. What's that key? They were highly educated but failed by the system. It was really depressing, actually, to be an aspiring artist, because I was just starting to self-publish. This was back in 2014, so I was just starting to self-publish. I was just trying to dip my toes in, just trying to figure out, who I was as a creative person. The Megan of today is okay with the idea that I might never be famous. I might never be one of the greats. I probably won't win awards. I'm not going to have best-selling novels. Like, I'm okay with that because I get to do what I love and I get to live comfortably while doing it. And, like, just to give an example, like, I was talking about, you know, possibly having ripped open my gums this morning. If it ends up that I have to go to a dentist and the dentist is like, yeah, we got to do something about that, I know that, one, I have insurance coverage, and two, I will probably, thanks to the insurance, have the money to cover that. So I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about, like, where my day-to-day survival is coming from. And I get to still be an artist and still do the things that I love. And to me, that's a form of success, and I'm happy with that. But being someone who hadn't yet reached that point in their life, going through this exhibit and reading story after story about how so-and-so was one of the most famous artists of this time period. He failed the exam. He died at 26. And it's like, oh my God. Like, oh my God. Like, we value art in our society still today, but we don't value artists. And it's been happening since ancient times. And it was really mind-blowingly depressing at the time. I'm not gonna lie. When Mr. Pepper retires, Megan and Ghost History podcast, please. I mean, I'm sure Ghost would love to do a history podcast. Having time for it would be a different thing. On top of Divorce Court podcast and the Gilmore Girls podcast. Gilmore Girls podcast is gonna have to be me and Key, I think. Don't know if it ever actually happened, but the answers to the Imperial exams getting stolen or leaked is a plot point in a surprisingly high number of danme. I wouldn't be surprised if it was something that happened. It wasn't something that featured in any of the exhibits I visited, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, at that time period, like, being noble-born got you something, but passing the exam was what really got you into the court, was my understanding of how it worked, right? So it would behoove the people who were nobility to get their sons into that system, right? They would want them to get past the exam. Tests and bureaucracy. Yes. Yes. Oh no, me in a podcast? Key, given the way you and I just chat when we're on a voice chat, if somebody just recorded that, it would be the easiest podcast in the world to make. We would go off on tangents and never get back to the original topic, but, like, we could easily record just 4 hours of talking. How dare you make a good point. When I studied in a Chinese university as an exchange student, the stress of all the Chinese students felt over their academic performance was so depressing. Its ranking is really important in the Chinese system still today, and I think in Japan as well. Like, where you sit in the class ranking is really, really important to their schooling. But also, I know that Ghost Pepper has taught Chinese exchange students here in Canada, and one of the problems that they sometimes run into is that those students aren't necessarily prepared for an international classroom. They are the best students in their Chinese class, and they've qualified for the program, and their schools want them to go be in these exchange programs, but their grasp of English isn't always the best. Their grasp of what they're expected to do isn't always the best. Gotta skedaddle. He's running so he won't get shoved onto a podcast. Keith, thanks for hanging out. We hope we see you later. And so, yeah, the concern over ranking and the concern over being perceived as being the best at something often takes precedence in Asian academia over, I hate to say it, sometimes substance. So, and the teaching, this is another good point that Theta Stardust makes. They're used to learning by rote, not necessarily creative thinking. It is a very different type of teaching than the type of teaching that we have in our schools here. So it can be really, really challenging for an exchange student, even an exchange student who is really, really good at academia in their home country can struggle because of the difference in how we teach here. I see that it is 11:29. How did we get here? Sometimes after the opening dialogue, I'm just like, okay, let's try to trace back over how this conversation happened, and I can't do it. I don't know how we got here, but here's how we got. I definitely think if you, like me, were... Hey, Veil Wraith, how's it going? If you, like me, were raised with a very Eurocentric education, which most of us who grew up in North America were, it's definitely worth looking into the pockets of history that you didn't get to learn about in school, because there were a lot of fascinating and important things happening throughout the world at other time periods, and it's worth digging into. It's worth having some knowledge about. It's really fascinating when you start digging into Japanese history and realize that the samurai era ended during I think it was World War I or World War II. Really late in history, because Japan was so isolated for so much of its time period that it held on to its traditions for a really long time, and was very slow to reach the modern era. Also, another really interesting, last tangent, another really interesting exhibit that I saw while we were in England at the British Museum was actually a exhibit dedicated to tentacle erotic art from Japan. And there was a subsection of that exhibit that was all the foreigners who had gone to visit Japan before they went completely isolationist and stopped letting outsiders come in, where they would be drawn to Japan by friends who told them about it, and they were completely enamored by the lack of taboos, because taboos in Japan were completely different compared to in European countries at that time. And how liberating they found the artistic scene in Japan because of those lack of taboos. So it's really fascinating if you look into the history that we didn't get when we were in school, and how it did actually influence small subcultures, and, you know, that there were tons of interesting things that we don't know about because we were just never taught. Lucidity is the enemy. Never question what happened or you'll never get anything done. That might be the most wise thing that has been said here today. We got here because Prince Andrew was arrested and we started talking about the order of succession, and I mentioned Imperial China. You know what, Sardonisms? The fact that you were able to trace that coherently, I appreciate that. I appreciate that there was coherence in this, and somebody has it. Hey Ghost, why didn't you get a job in England for a while? Just spitballing here, just throwing things out. Well, we actually ended up in the UK because the other job that Ghost was interviewing for that year was on a ship. It was literally a school that was run on a ship, and they would go out to sea for like 6 months. And that would have been really cool. But I'm glad it didn't happen. I'm kind of glad England happened instead. Anyway, this is when I will remind you guys that there are redeems in the down below where you can redeem a spirit companion, a activity, or a location. We are going to be doing 3 30-minute sprints with 15-minute breaks in between. And then that's it. Then we wrap up for the day, and I go eat some lunch and get ready for Ghost Pepper to get home from camp, which will be hopefully a lovely time. We're gonna order fried chicken sandwiches and sit on the couch. It was snowing this morning, but I can see that it's not anymore. That lasted maybe 20 minutes. So the sun is coming out, and we're gonna get settled in to be productive. This is my last stream of the week, so this is the last productivity that we're gonna be doing until next week. So let's try to make it the good stuff. I'm gonna take a quick break, run to the washroom, reheat my coffee. And then we will hang out with Pickles for our first sprint here. Reminder to you guys as well, because you've probably been sitting down at least as long as I have. Get up, stretch, move around, grab yourself something to eat and or drink, so that you can settle in. Make sure you're stretching those limbs, because we're not actually supposed to sit down for hours at a time, believe it or not. And once I get back, we'll dig right in. Um, Faded Stardust, do you want the, like, train space background or the Among Us space background? If you want the train space background, there's not much variation difference to the times of day, but it's more spacey. So, just so people know, we were talking about this one the other day. This is the Among Us space background, which is more sort of like nebulous space. And then this is the train space background. And I usually turn the thunder effects off, because otherwise you can't really see it. And then the lighting just kind of affects, like, there's sort of a little haze of color. So it's not really much difference between them. But there's your time differences. Oops, that's not what we want. And then we got pickles. Excellent. I believe this is the night one. And then if you turn on, just so you know, like if you turn on the storm, it ends up kind of washing everything out. So I usually turn off the storm effects on this map. Let's do the knitting because it's really cute when the kitty plays with the yarn. The one place not corrupted by capitalism, space. So far, at least. So far, we are safe in space. As safe as you can be in space, I guess. Oh, I did not see. We actually have a. Hang on. Do you want just looking sardonisms, or do you want photos? I guess it doesn't necessarily matter. Space. 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 I always think of the space sphere from Portal 2. Space! Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I'm in space! Knitting is not an outdoor activity here, unfortunately. I think it would be an indoor one. But that's okay. If nobody redeems anything for the next... I cannot click on the right thing to save my life. If nobody redeems anything for the next one, we can do knitting. That was my fault for not reading the full chat before I set things up. But here we go. We got pickles. We got space. We got contemplative me. And it's time, I think. It's time to dig in. I've got action scenes all the way down today. Let's lock in knitting. Heck yeah. We will knit for the next sprints. On a ship is too close to the tentacles. Being on land in museums is the way of safety. Boy, I'm glad I scrolled up and read that. Oh my goodness. Unless we're in Star Trek and the Ferengi exist. The Ferengi. Oh, the Ferengi. The first appearance of the Ferengi in the Next Generation is incredibly wild. If you don't remember that episode, go back and watch a clip. It's insane. Fully insane. Alright. Let's do it! It's nice to be on the back part of the train. Oh, hang on. I might have to, if I remember right, I need to jack up the train speed a bit for space, because otherwise... you spend a lot of time not seeing anything. It'd be nice if the backgrounds all moved at a consistent pace, but they don't. If I go to a different map with this speed, it will be lightning fast. Is too... Let's find a mid-ground there. sun came out and it got significantly brighter than it was when I opened the blind this morning. 1 pi thousand. Cheers, pi. Alright, that is our first sprint. The word momentarily fled my brain. That is our first sprint completed. And here we are in space. I'm gonna go in here and cheat a bit and get us to a more interesting background? Maybe? I do like the space background, but on the train I find that it takes forever to get to a point where, like, you see anything interesting. But anyway, that was a very productive sprint for me. I hope it was a very productive sprint for you guys. Come on. Give us an interesting background here. What is going on with the space? Wait. There we go. Oh, that didn't end up being any more interesting, did it? Goodness gracious. Maybe that. Maybe that will do? There, we've got one planet hanging out with us. One planet in the background. I feel like this is being so stingy. Give us one of the really pretty things. How did that sprint go for you guys? Here we go. Here's maybe something a little bit more interesting. There we go. Oh, I need to let it get more central. There we go. Something pretty. There we go. Something, I don't know, slightly cool to look at in the background while we're paused. I am going to take a quick break and run to the washroom. Since you guys are quiet for the moment. And then when we get back, we can talk some more. We've got knitting set up for our next sprint. But there is a spirit companion and a location left if anyone wants to redeem something. Working on character profiles for my 5 POV characters for a fantasy series I'm plotting this week and next. I just finished one of the profiles and I'm happy with the progress. Heck yeah, I usually do that for the start of my projects as well. I'll go in and make little profiles for all my main characters. And then all of my named characters that are not necessarily POV characters, but I already have pre-named, will get little profiles as well. And then I try to just stock up on names, because you always need them. And I'm bad at naming things in the moment. I'm going to pause the timer. I'm going to take a quick break. Remember to get up, stretch, move around, grab yourself something to eat and or drink. And I will be back in just a few minutes. Aw, Faded Stardust, that's very sweet of you to redeem another round with Pickles so that we can play with the yarn. Heck yeah. I might switch back to the bedroom just because it will give us a more consistent space background. Names are very important, and I've talked about this on stream before. I have this bad tendency to not name my characters in a first draft. So my characters just end up being descriptors for the first draft that they're in, and it's pretty it's pretty funny. I wonder actually if will we see more of the space from over here? No, we see it best from here. Wow! Stop! Stop clicking the wrong buttons. Just had an interesting crossover duo, Ghost Rider from Marvel Comics and Danny Phantom fighting someone. I vaguely know who Danny Phantom is. Yeah! It's a really nice looking gas giant when you can actually see it for more than 2 seconds. Currently have characters needing named at some point. I currently have characters like Other Mage and Betrayer and Malia's mom. No, that's how my characters get named in the first draft. Or it'll be like the short one or the one with the scar. In the Aravalia Chronicles, there's a character who did eventually get named. But for a significant amount of the trilogy, he was just called Ackard's bodyguard. Because he's the bodyguard for another king, in the series. And eventually he got the name, Cedric. And then I had to go back and add that into a bunch of different books because, he was originally introduced, I think in book 8, which is gonna go out later this year. But it wasn't until after I finished writing the whole series that I finally gave him a name. So that was funny. Have to have names for most characters before I could work with them. No, my main characters do get names before the book starts. But my, like, NPC characters, they just tend to get, like, little descriptors that I use to indicate who they are. And it ends up, it's funny because then I'm cutting, like, 2 or 3 words every time I'm adding a name in there when I do my... It just slows me down. It just slows me down to stop and name somebody. So if I haven't thought to name them ahead of time, most of the time I will just not name them until the next draft. And it was funny because while I was editing this book, it was a day that wasn't streamed, but while I was editing this book, I came up with a name. I needed a name for the flagship of a Kalteran battle fleet, and I had left myself a note saying name the ship in this scene, and so I spent 20 minutes coming up with a name that I was happy with, and then I got almost to the end of the scene and I was like, there's no place where this name is going to come up. It's not going to come up in this scene. I spent 20 minutes coming up with a name for this ship, and it's not going to be in here. And then in, like, the last paragraph, I was finally able to get it in there. I was like, I named this ship! This ship's name has to be in there. And since then, there have been a couple of places where the name has come up. But I was just like, I spent so much time naming this ship. Scotty Toothati, hello, how's it going? I do have a name now. I have it written. I have a little document that it's even open in and everything so that if I need to refer to the name of this ship, I have it. It is named. It is named. I need a name for my villain of this crossover hero tale. I get all of my names, the majority of my names from name generators. Every now and then a character will show up in my brain pre-named. Domerin did that. I knew his name. I don't remember how I figured out his name, but I knew his name. And I knew that Domerin is actually the short version of his name. I don't necessarily consider that to be a spoiler. It doesn't come up until a lot later in the Arvalia Chronicles, but it's not his full name. I knew that it was a shortened version of his name. So, like, he just showed up fully named and everything, but a lot of my characters get names from name generators. Bob is Woof's go-to name suggestion. Whenever I used to be like, I need a name for a character, he would always say Bob. He would always say that. Whatever name I name him, he is called the Ghost King of New Orleans. Oh, see, that's way cooler than any other name. Key's back! Key! Why did you have to leave? We missed you. We were sad. We were sad and lonely without you. Mostly we were focusing, but also you weren't here. Must be a trans guy thing. Listen, I didn't want to say it, but didn't want to say it, but I was definitely thinking it. I often pick names based on their meaning. For example, Emrys means immortal, which fit the character since his ideal is to become immortal by documenting the present. I used to do that, and there was a series when I did the names for Eternity's Empire. I spent hours researching names, but now I'm at the point where most of my stories take place not on Earth, so most of my characters belong to a made-up culture, so I can just decide what their names mean most of the time. In Eternity's Empire, it made sense for them to have real-world names with specific meanings, and I stand by that. But most of my characters live in secondary worlds, so I can just decide what their names mean. And second of all, you don't know who a person is gonna be when they're born. Like, like, you can give someone the name that means, you know, sword that pierces the heavens, but then they might just end up being a drunken slob for their whole life. You don't know. You wasted the best name on the worst guy. The Ghost King of New Orleans is my darkest character ever created. I mean, he sounds like a Ghost King of New Orleans is a pretty ominous name, so I'd believe it. Is he alive or is he undead? Had another meeting. First of all, I hope it was a productive meeting and not a meeting that could be an email. And second of all, I hope you escaped it relatively unscathed. I hope you escaped it relatively unscathed. It must be getting on towards the end of your day. Since it's a little after noon here, and I know you're 3 hours ahead of me. Sword that pierces the heavens is a staunch pacifist who meditates on an isolated mountain. Yeah, not living up to that name, is he? I'm guilty of this, though. There was a character, I don't want to say who exactly in the Aravalia Chronicles, but I gave their name the meaning steadfast. And they are a steadfast character, and I knew that going in. You cheat a little bit sometimes. I have 27 minutes left to the workday, so by the end of the next sprint, you'll be heading home. You'll be out of there. You'll be doing donuts. You'll be doing donuts on the way home. Perfectly safe and legal donuts. On an area of road where no accidents can happen. Sadly, it is not Friday, so you will have to return to work tomorrow, I presume. I also want to eat a donut. I want to eat a fried chicken sandwich when my husband gets home this evening. I'm living for that Ghost Pepper getting home and me getting to have a fucking fried chicken sandwich and fries. The missing French fry! Did we summon you? Did we summon you just now by talking about fried food? Welcome in! How's it going? You're really tempting me not to cook. I mean, why? Because you want to have... Won't it be, if you if you have fried chicken tonight, won't it be like your fourth time having fried chicken? It's like the Nuggy World Tour continuing. I'm not judging, by the way. If you have as much fried chicken as you want. But I'm just saying. That's a funny coincidence. I'm doing good. Welcome in, Missing French Fry. Are you a writer? If so, let us know what type of thing you write or what you're working on. If you want to, no pressure. If you're not a writer, welcome in anyway. This is a cool, chill place for all the peeps. He is alive but old, and a serial child murderer who uses their remains to build fetishes that let him enslave their ghosts for his other criminal endeavors. That sounds pretty dark. I'm gonna go ahead and say pretty dark. Cool, but dark. Names are hard because they need to fit the story, but they also need to be easy to say where the reader isn't stopping the flow to say the name. This is also true, and I have come up with names that I can't pronounce and had to change them later. The number of times where I have been like, this is a cool name, and put it in my story, and then tried to say that name out loud and said it totally different from how it's spelled, and then just been like, we'll just change it. We'll just change it. Has been a lot. If I had $1 for every time I did that, I would probably have at least $10. I need to cook real food at some point. That is probably true. In order to have a healthy and balanced diet and not get scurvy, you probably do need to cook at some point. I like to write. I don't have specifics I like to write, but my newest thing is sort of horror. Nice! Well, welcome in, Missing French Fry. I'm about to get quiet and go into focus mode because we're about to go into a 30-minute sprint here. Names are malleable in the first few drafts. That is also true. My main characters tend to have set names, but secondary characters, all bets are off. I'm going to pause this for just 1 second so I can finish my spiel. I'm gonna get quiet here in a second and go into focus mode for the next 30 minutes, so I won't be saying as much. But Missing French Fry, if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them during the break. And just welcome. We hope you enjoy the vibe. You guys can, of course, talk as much as you like during the sprints. You guys don't have to be quiet. I do, because I gotta get work done. But here we go. We are off. Whatever day I wrote this, I clearly did not. My fingers might have been moving too fast, but I kept making battlefield 2 words for some reason. This is Lo-Fi Sessions Spirit City. It is a game that you can find on Steam. It's more of a productivity app than a game, but it allows you to unlock these cute little spirit companions to hang out with while you're being productive. So. Forgot that there's another scene of battle after this one, so I might have to pull out some of the stuff that I just put in. Gotta leave some stuff to happen in the next scene. Rai with a 20 stream streak. Rai, I hope you're doing well. that is the second sprint done. That went very well. This scene in particular, I am quite happy with. Huzzah! And I will most definitely be able to finish within the next sprint. So there we go. If anybody has a... Oh, sorry. If anybody has a location, a spirit companion, or a activity that they want to get in for the next sprint, be sure to redeem that, because at the end we will switch everything around. Mad Lad, I'm going to save that hydrate for after the break because I am about to take a quick break and pop into the kitchen and reheat my coffee, and I will hydrate with the fresh hot coffee when we get back. Don't forget to, I think I said this already, but don't forget to get up, stretch, move around, grab yourself something to eat and or drink as we settle in for the last stretch of stream. My tummy is telling me I need food, and I have actually accomplished what I set out to today, so I'm going to go head out and make food. Faded Stardust, thank you so much for hanging out. Take care of yourself. Enjoy lunch. I'm going to pause the timer for 1 moment while I pop AFK, and I'll be right back. And we're back. Just gonna get settled in one more time here for a final sprinty sprint. Sardinisms, I hope your work calls went well. Just in case it wasn't... In case it wasn't easy to pick up on what I said earlier, this is the name of the game that's on stream. If you were looking to find it on Steam, I think they do put it on sale at fairly regular intervals. They're working on a new DLC, so it will probably go on sale sometime in the lead up to the new DLC, I would imagine. But they are creating a garden, and they've been putting out some previews of some of the new spirits that you're going to be able to get from the garden DLC, and I'm super excited about it. I thought the one that they put out today was super cute. Vidya games, we can definitely do that. We can play Vidya games next. Should have waited to see if anyone redeemed a companion. Lots of companions have cute animation. Yeah, totally. I mean, you can do any of the companions with any of the animations, really. Some of them don't get super specific, but they have been adding more and more of them, which I appreciate. I think when they first launched the game, each of the companions only had one specific animation. And so I think they've been slowly adding more and more of them as they release new content, which is super cool. If no one redeems a new companion, I'll pick Arachnit. I'm not sure. I knew which one you meant though. Where is it? I scrolled past it. There you go. Arachnit. I do wish they let you pick your spirit companions, like, from the spirit decks. Because it feels like they went to all this trouble of making this super cool thing, and you never look at it. Once you've unlocked all of the things, you, like, never look at it again. It's just like, okay, well, that happens. Bye. I do want to, just while we're sitting around, out of curiosity, just want to see what it looks like in the kitchen. You can kind of see something from out there. Sometimes I like to just go around to, like, the different areas and see, like, how it looks from there. With the different backgrounds. I should also spend some of my... I've been hanging on to my spirit bucks for the new DLC, but I have so many. I've been sort of making my way through all of, like, the main content and buying stuff. We got a save alert from Pi. I'm hitting the save button. Oh yeah, and we had a hydrate from Mad Lad that we gotta do with the fresh hot coffee. Oh, see, I like that you can see the the space up there. I wish you could sometimes see that angle. I don't have the floors. I do have all the light fixtures. Let's buy the floors, and then we'll have everything in the general section unlocked. Let me remember which one I have on. Gotta love that 90s flooring. For some reason, I apparently bought that one already? Kind of surprised you have yet to unlock everything in the game. Honestly, I forget to spend my money a lot. But also, I tend to save it up for, like, if there's a DLC coming. So, like, I probably could unlock everything in the base game. But because I know there's a DLC coming out, I probably will try not to dip too far under 100. If I even dip that far, because then when the new DLC comes out, I'll be able to get exactly what I want right away without having to wait. So I'll be able to instantly explore all of the customization options and get whatever I want when the garden gets here. I think it's just because of how much clicking it is to buy everything. I honestly don't think of it that often either. Like, I just kind of forget. Once I bought all of the skins, I also used to save my money for all the spirit skins as well. So once I bought all the spirit skins, I just kind of forgot that I could, ooh, and then these, I guess, are the kitchen floors. I just kind of forgot that I could get everything else. There we go. We've got everything. We've got everything under the general tab unlocked. There we go. And I still have spirit bucks for days. Four Game Boys, one spider. What's for dinner, Key? What are you cooking? What are you cooking today? Today. When the new DLC comes out, I may disappear for a few streams because I want to find the new spirits myself and not get a sneak peek or hint about how to unlock them. Fair. I tend to try to unlock them on stream, so I don't do them, like, off stream. Where have we not hung out? I do at least think I've used all of the backgrounds at some point in time now. There were a couple that for a while I was like, I've never touched this. Let's hang out in Orange Nebulous Land. Nebulous Orange Land. That seems nice and cozy. So yeah, what I probably will do is hold on to some of my spirit dollars for the new DLC so that I can get whatever I want, like, when it first comes out, and so that I can get the skins for the new spirits, and then I'll continue to slowly work my way through. I've been trying to unlock everything in the base game. There's less stuff to unlock in the DLCs, but I've been basically trying to unlock everything in the base game, and then I'll go through and unlock the other stuff. I've talked myself out of fried chicken, part 5, and I'm making meatloaf with rice and veg. Oh, meatloaf is good. Meatloaf is a good choice. Enjoy, Key. Did you know that California has a mono county and a YOLO county? I did not, but I'm not actually all that surprised. There were some interesting names of places in Pennsylvania where I grew up as well. This is gonna be our final sprint. After this 30 minutes, we are gonna head off and raid somebody. So enjoy these last 30 minutes of hanging out. And I'm gonna get to it. Only downside is double fisting the meat into shape. I hate touching raw meat, but it is kind of an essential part of meatloaf making. The most common county name in the US is Washington County, which exists in 31 states. Interesting. Boy, the language center of my brain is revolting today. School Kill Count is such a fun name. I remember that one from my youth. such a scroll? You mean me scrolling? Can you hear me scrolling through my document rapidly? Oh, interesting. Interesting that the mic picks up on my scroll wheel. I've actually finished with my edits, so I'm going through and putting some formatting in. I tend to put some formatting in to indicate that the that I've edited that part. Actually, I only have 2 chapters left in this book. 3 scenes total, so I'll be able to finish. I'll be able to finish on Monday, this book. That will be lovely. Chopping the veg that goes in the loaf. What veg do you put in the loaf, Key? Man, it's been so long since we made a meatloaf. I've only ever seen onion in meatloaf, and if I were to make it, I wouldn't even put that because boyfriend can't eat it. I'd put onion powder to get the flavor without him gagging on the texture. I think we usually put onion in ours too. I think one of the reasons we don't make meatloaf more often is because you have to touch raw meat, and I don't like touching raw meat. It's also one of the reasons why I don't make meatballs more often, is because I would have to touch raw meat, and I don't like touching raw meat, even though it tastes really yummy when I make them. The animations are likely to freeze here in a second, because I am going to open my Firefox and peek at who we can raid in a moment. A few moments. Carrot and onion mainly. Don't have celery this time around. Oh, interesting. I don't think I've ever put carrot and celery into a meatloaf. I can imagine that would taste really good, though. My mom always put onion in hers. My boyfriend can't eat most plants because of the texture. We actually know somebody who can't have onions because it upsets her tummy. So I imagine it's challenging, because onions are like one of those base ingredients that are in like everything. Who's around today? Maybe we will raid Opal Bean. yes, I'm so happy that it's Thursday. I'm so happy that Ghost Pepper is coming home tonight and we're gonna eat fried chicken sammies. And then tomorrow's gonna be Friday. And that means the day after that is gonna be Saturday. And we're going out to dinner for a belated Valentine's Day on Saturday. So I'm excited. You can replace a lot of meat and things with veg to help with grease, calories, and getting more fiber. I.e., I make some homemade burgers that are 40% carrot. Interesting. I have never tried to do that. Although, given the prices of meat these days, it makes sense. Ten more seconds. Get that last of that productivity in there, friends. And with that, we've concluded our productivity for the day. That is 3 times 30-minute sprints. And I got through my 2 scenes that I needed to edit, and I feel pretty good about them. They didn't even really need me to do that much to them. And I disagreed with some of the notes that I had left myself, so... Sometimes you encounter a scene that's so good that you're like, no, I can't change this. It's perfect. Not perfect, but you know, I don't wanna interrupt the balance of things. So this is it for me for this week. It has been so amazing to get to share my productivity with you guys, and honestly, you guys have gotten me through Ghost Pepper being away, which I appreciate the hell out of. Mad Lad, thank you for being here. Appreciate you all. Just a reminder, there's no Winds of Chaos this week because Ghost Pepper has been out of town, but there is going to be a big Winds of Chaos stream on Saturday to wrap up the final battle and the final round of story arcs. So if you have been following Winds of Chaos and you want to see the ending, that's going to be happening on Saturday during the day. And then Saturday in the evening, Wolf and I will be doing our usual club, where we will discuss Redline finally with Key. Has been waiting patiently for that to happen. So that'll be at 7:30 p.m. PST in the evening after Winds of Chaos wraps up. So look forward to all of those things. I just realized that we agreed to go out on Saturday, but they're having a big Winds of Chaos thing, so I might have to I might have to talk to Ghost about that. Anyway, this is it for me for this week, but next week we'll be back Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10:30 a.m. PST, with more of the same regular antics. Let's raid Opal Bean, who is also doing some co-working. I think they're about to go into break time before their final, Pomo. Guys, please do take care of yourselves. Remember to eat, to sleep, to drink, to get up and move around. These meat sacks we're driving around don't come with maintenance manuals, but they do require a lot of maintenance, and you gotta do it, whether you like it or not. So it's better if you do it. Trust me. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, you guys. It's been great. I've gotten so much done. This week, next week will be a little bit more normal because the schedule won't be all over the place. And I won't go totally feral. You guys, please take care. Have a fabulous weekend. I wish you much oh my goodness. I wish you much productivity and creativity until I see you again. Hopefully able to speak more better. And until then, my friends, take care of yourselves. Bye.